So we are live now. So welcome Dr. Pawan and Dr. Arun. Uh, Now we have several questions from participants. The first one is about the millets, positive millets in vegan diet. Little kodo millets, etc. All these different millets are there. And Dr. Pawan, you want to answer about millets?
Yes, millets. What is the exact question? What they want about millets?
Uh, Let me repeat.
Okay.
What is the role of positive millets in vegan diet?
See, there are various kinds of millets which are available in the market, and Dr. Cordes Khader Wali is working very good in the area of millets. As per my knowledge, what I recommend is definitely millets have got low glycemic index. The glycemic index of millets is really low, and many people think that they are gluten free, and so they can be taken in all autoimmune conditions, and they do not harm the body. But one thing you have to make clear, that gluten is not a real problem. Gluten means it's in the modern wheat, the content of gluten is little high, and because of that high gluten content, the glycemic index of the modern variety of wheat is little high. So I recommend is you go for whole grains, because whole grains, which are of 7 types of, which is wheat, millets, and then ragi, jowar, bajra, and soya, and all. I recommend you mix all of them and eat, because only taking millets is not feasible for all of us, because taste is always an issue, and we just want to make our food more tasty. And gluten sensitivity, if you look at the data, there are only 2 types of problems. If you take 100 patients, so maybe 1 or 2 out of 1,000 or 10,000 have got celiac disease, for which celiac profile is done, and if they test positive, that they have to leave gluten. And other patients who have little gluten hypersensitivity, means they develop bloating, kind of some gas in the body, in their abdomen, whenever they take gluten. So I recommend you go for 5 to 7 days of gluten-free period. If you feel really well, you can skip gluten. But for me, and for most of my patients, gluten is not a problem. Because we are dealing with whole food plant-based diet, and in when you do a lot of research, and some dogmas also come up that gluten is bad, and that. I have not found gluten causing any kind of autoimmune conditions, and gluten is being tolerated by Hashimoto thyroiditis or MS, multiple sclerosis patient, or SLE patient. They tolerate it well. It is just your abdomen. If you feel unwell after eating gluten, leave it for 5 to 7 days, do a elimination diet. And if you feel really well, then go for the millets. Millets is really good. Only thing is, all the studies which have been done in diabetes on the whole grains, they have done on the millets. Millets have given very good results in cases of diabetes. The sugars really go low. So you can give it a try. But for me, if you want, I would recommend go for mix all the grains. Keep wheat little low, eat rice well. Brown rice is better, white rice is not that good, but white rice is also okay until unless you put oil into it. So that this is the only thing, which means I have not gone into the deepness of the different kind of millets, like what Khader Wali is doing is I have to study that.
Okay. There's another question. This is, she says, my mother has had hypothyroidism since 10 years. She's taking 100 microgram tablet and she's vegan for about 9 months. Please, can you guide what else she should do?
Me?
You're
Okay.
muted. Dr. Rupa, you're muted.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dr. Pawan, since
Yeah.
you have also treated lots of
Yeah.
hypothyroid patients.
Hypothyroidism, see, first of all, you have to remember that uh, some of the plants are really giving good results in some of the foods. Like I recommend in all cases of Hashimoto thyroiditis or maybe hypothyroidism of other unknown causes, supplement yourself with Brazil nut. If you're taking selenium, especially most of the cases of Hashimoto thyroiditis where anti-TPO antibody is really high, maybe your values are more than 2200, more than 600, more than 1000. You should start supplementing yourself with Brazil nut. For 1 month, you daily take one piece of Brazil nut. And after 1 month, every week, one piece of Brazil nut. The selenium level of Brazil nut is very high, and it is proved in international medical journals. Once you start taking Brazil nut, your anti-TPO antibody level goes down by 50% just in 1 week. And it's a big recovery. Your tablets dose will reduce dramatically within 2 to 3 months. All my patients who are on 200 micrograms of altroxin or 100 micrograms of altroxin, their dose really reduces because their TSH level really drops down. So I have to reduce their doses. So this is one thing. Then keep your vitamin D level really good. All of you should aim for your vitamin D level of 100. So if your vitamin D level is really good, your thyroid will reverse. Third, do some neck exercises because most of the times the thyroid is supplied by your C4, C5, C6 vertebrae. And if you are really maintaining your alignment of the spine and doing yoga of the neck exercises, your thyroid will improve. Reduce your stress level. In all the cases of Hashimoto thyroiditis, it is proven that they all have stress. All those women have stress. And stress means I recommend simple is doing some kind of meditations or some kind of activities. Plus, for me, saffron. Add little saffron into your diet, in your chapati, in your dal, in your tea, black tea, which you take. If you take saffron, your stress level really goes down. And that causes improvement into your thyroid level. And remember, one big cause of hypothyroidism is iodine toxicity, which you are getting from the cow's milk or buffalo milk, which you are taking from the Amul or the mother dairy. You really have to cut down your milk level. Milk has to be absolute zero. Your bread contains milk, your biscuits contain milk, you have to leave everything and go for a whole food, whole grains, like I'm telling, mixing all the grains and then take it. This has caused a dramatic improvement in my patient's thyroid levels.
So just a couple of things. Again, great points, Dr. Pawan. And just a couple of things. I mean, about the whole millet question, I think it's important that you really use it as a balanced meal. I do think I agree that the gluten insensitivity has probably been blown out of proportion. It's probably more a fad than unless you have insensitivity. So it's got one of the best glycemic indices, as Dr. Pawan said, and it's really useful. Not just for diabetics, but also in heart disease, etc. It's one of the healthiest whole grains. So use it as part of your armamentarium, as part of a complete whole food plant-based diet. And then the one caveat I would say with treating hypothyroidism and just diet alone, just be careful, work with the doctor. As you said, things might head in the right direction, but do periodically check your TSH. Don't just say, all right, I'm going to have a Brazil nut because Dr. Bond told me that, and I'm just going to stop checking. So work with your doctor, right? I mean, absolutely. I think it's great to have, good selenium, take your Brazil nuts, take brown rice, take sunflower seeds, baked beans, whatnot. But do work with your medical professional, and hopefully your need for replacement will come down. But that's kind of the plan. So don't just get dogmatic. These are all hopefully to help you attain a holistic approach, not meant as a replacement completely.
Dr. Arun, there is another question about vitamin B12 on vegan diet, and should we take supplement, or how do we exactly handle this? issue?
Myself. So I think it's a great question. And there's one of the biggest myths is that, all right, if I'm going to be completely vegan, I'm not going to get enough B12. And again, I'm going to touch upon not just B12, but also vitamin D. One of the key things that we do notice in a lot of people, and this is not just vegans or whatever. I mean, you have vitamin D deficiencies ubiquitous in our part of the world, interestingly. And B12, a lot of people are going around with B12 deficiency. So it's never a bad idea to supplement. However, if you have the ability to take nutritional yeast, etc., these are good sources of B12. I mean, again, I'm not gonna quote studies for this, but I always feel if you can replace it naturally, that's great. So yes, I think nutritional yeast is a great source. So do use it generously. It's a very versatile thing for those that are not familiar with it. I'm not a cooking expert, but I can tell you, it always just adds as a garnishing. It's very versatile. But do check it. It's never a bad idea. Check your B12 levels, and if it is, constantly on the low side, it's not a bad idea to supplement it. And you do have, vegan B12 supplements if that's if that's something that you do need.
And Dr. Pawan, what do you suggest? Vitamin B12?
Yes. So first of all, it has to be made clear to everybody that don't think that we are on the vegan diet. That's why we are deficient in vitamin B12. Even the people who are non-vegetarians or taking omnivorous diet, they are also equally vitamin B12 deficient. The reason why vitamin B12 deficiency has come into the picture is because vitamin B12 is there where there are bacteria, where there is spoiling, means like there is fermentation. So now we are not taking the plain water, we are taking filter water, RO water, and then all of our things are cooked well. We are doing in a lot of hygiene now. So that is the main reason why vitamin B12 deficiency is seen. And if you check, the prevalence of vitamin B12 deficiency is equal in vegans, vegetarians, omnivorous, and non-vegetarians, because you are eating cooked. They are not eating raw meat, they are eating cooked meat, they are drinking boiled milk. So vitamin B12 deficiency is a problem everywhere. This is the main answer for the question. Now, recommendations for vitamin B12. See, simple thing. Recently, we have done a lot of research on vitamin B12. Nutritional yeast is the answer. And I have checked all the companies' nutritional yeast. Brack is a company which is selling nutritional yeast. If you are taking 1 teaspoonful in the full day, just sprinkle little nutritional yeast on your food, your intake of vitamin B12 is adequate, RDA is adequate, because the recommendation right now for taking vitamin B12 is only for the people who are less than 65 years of age. They just have to supplement themselves with the 2000 micrograms of vitamin B12 once a week. And the people who are above 65 years, they have to daily take 1000 micrograms of vitamin B12. And that 1000 micrograms of vitamin B12, if you check the labels of the Bragg company, it is the nutritional yeast of Bragg company is having a very good quantity of nutritional yeast compared to other companies. So I recommend all my patients simply sprinkle some nutritional yeast in your 3 meals, and your vitamin B12 status is taken care. And the recent trials which have also shown that the strokes and the heart attacks which are happening in all the people is not due to cholesterol. They are mainly due to homocysteine level, which is in the pathway of the vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 deficiency is the main cause of strokes and the coronary events in most of the people. So if you supplement yourself with vitamin B12, it is good. Keep supplement, you have to take it, because and don't say that we are on the vegan diet and so we are having deficiency. We are accepting that we are having the deficiency, but the studies are showing it is equally prevalent in non-vegetarians, milk drinkers, and vegans.
In fact, for safety reasons, if anyone wants to go vegan, I always get that profile done beforehand, and we always know the levels before they went into the plant-based diet and lifestyle. So often they are already deficient. So then, I don't want the vegan diet to get blamed that that's the special one that is, causing this deficiency. As you mentioned, it is across the board. You get this deficiency anyway. And then, of course, supplementation, whatever is required, support is taken, and we can move forward. But not to blame the plant-based diet. There's another one that we get blamed for is, of course, with calcium. When you stop dairy products, the doctors say the opposite, right? Take the dairy products to get your calcium. And we say the other way around, that stop all the dairy products and yet you will not have calcium deficiency. So there's a huge fear in the mind that if I stop dairy, where will I get my calcium from? So, Dr. Arun, would you like to address that first?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you pretty much answered it. I mean, it's a huge misconception that you can't get enough calcium on a plant-based diet. I mean, you have whatnot like bok choy, kale, greens like your turnip greens, mustard greens, broccoli, peas, chickpeas, or like we call chana. You have tofu, and of course, like I mean, I'm not sure about how readily available it is. Like, but back when I was in the States, we used to get a lot of uh, calcium and vitamin D fortified orange juice, etc. I mean, you have so many sources; it's not even funny. So I think it's one of those things that is again, it's a myth that has been propagated, unfortunately. So yeah, typically there should be no reason for you not to get enough calcium on a plant-based diet. There are multiple sources.
Dr. Pawan,
Yeah,
anything
so
there?
calcium is the question they ask, and in randomized control trials, it is well proven that milk is the more milk intake was there in the early age, the more chances that they will develop hip fractures and osteoporosis in the older life. This is proven, and milk calcium is never and never available to the bones because most of the times, these stones which are happening in people, kidney stones, gallstones, these are all calcium stones, and then we have deposits of calcium in the our coronaries and the arteries because that milk calcium compared to the vegan calcium is because of the animal protein is kind of acidic in nature, so it mostly damages the body. So more intake of dairy, more chances of developing fractures, and I have quoted all the studies in my seminars, and Dr. Rupa Shah has written a beautiful book, What About My Calcium. I recommend all of you who has got this question that what will happen to my bones if I go to vegan diet. That beautiful book, ma'am, do you have, just display it here? And this beautiful, my Dr. John McDougall is there, myself is there. We have answered all the questions regarding your calcium and all the dishes we have told you. And all my patients, I tell you, if you are eating 5 pieces of almonds, if you're taking orange daily, if you're taking fig, and if you're taking greens, smoothies, your calcium is taken care of, and your bones will improve, your arthritis level will improve. Milk will cause osteoporosis, milk will cause arthritis, milk will damage your coronaries because calcium supplements and this milk, they cause atherosclerosis in the body.
Right. The book is available on my website called as circleofhealth.in. So whoever wants to buy can order. So next question, that is on Alzheimer's disease in the elderly, and what would be the diet to prevent, or even those who are already having it? Alzheimer's disease. It's the disease of the Western world, we used to say, but now we also see it in India. Dr. Arun? So, Dr. Arun, I asked about Alzheimer's disease and how the plant-based diet can help over there. I,
So no, I just can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Yeah, just wanted to say that, I mean, for the record, I'm not, I don't typically deal with this disease, but having had a lot of interest in plant-based diets, etc., and there was some convincing data recently, especially both from a study in Chicago and from a new Canadian study, which essentially showed that uh, you know increasing intake of your average daily fruits and vegetables. If we noticed, like most of us don't get enough of this. I mean, especially if you're eating everything. We just don't get this. Those that have had more servings, like more than 5 to 6 servings, have a much lower, prevalence or likelihood of getting Alzheimer's. And I, even and this is something that I do want to stress upon, even in India, where generally people believe, well, I'm a vegetarian, how am I going to get this? Just make sure you really do eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. And of course, I think Dr. Pan already talked to you about a lot of the micronutrients and how important these are. I think it is critical that we plan and do a whole balanced meal. I always tell one of my coaches, you can have French fries and soda or diet soda and still say, well, I'm technically vegan. But that's like kind of one of the worst things you could do on a vegan diet. So make sure you eat real food, not just, get dogmatic about this.
Totally agree with you. The junk food also can be vegan, but we have to go on a healthy, whole food, plant based as far as possible, minimum
Absolutely.
processed. Yes. Dr. Pawan, do you want to add something on this Alzheimer's that is
Okay.
rising now in our
So
society?
Alzheimer's, again, it is the same problem. It is the atherosclerosis of the capillaries of the brain, which is due to the long-term diet consequences. And it is proven now. But first of all, you should be in touch with your doctor, and all your medications and all your memory levels have to be checked again and again. I recommend, first of all, in your intake of whole food plant-based diet, means fruit vegetables, has to be really high. Then taking high doses of saffron, I have proven in my lecture, you can see on the YouTube. High doses of saffron is therapeutic, means it increases your mini mental score level, improves your mini mental score level. And taking off, then optimizing your vitamin D level, optimizing your vitamin D level, because vitamin B12 is also linked to the memory. Exposure to sunlight has to be really good. And supplement your tea with your natural herbs, which are available in your kitchen, is like clove. A clove is very good for the memory. And then your this is what is dalchini and ginger. All these things give a lot of comfort to your brain. So people who take herbal teas with all these natural herbs, which have got really, the antioxidant level has to be really high. If you look at the ORAC value of the clove, it is very, very high. The highest ORAC value in the world is of the clove and the dalchini. These two should be added to your tea. They improve the memory, mini mental scale levels. Then saffron is very good. Vitamin D level has to be maintained. Vitamin B12 level has to be maintained, and sunlight has to be adequate. This will improve the Alzheimer's little bit, but be in touch with your doctor.
Sure. Uh, that was very good answer. Someone is asking about raw foods, and they're saying that raw food is giving them a lot of flatulence. And how can they be helped, if they cannot digest it since raw foods? Dr. Arun, I think you are muted. Okay. Dr. Arun, about the raw
Yeah.
foods.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, in general, right? I mean, I think it is very it's one of those challenges that you could get when you have a lot of fiber intake. But again, I think your body does get used to it. I did try raw diet for a while, and honestly, like there's some your body just takes some time, gets used to it, and really it is not that much of a problem that I've had. And now in general, though, it's not just raw foods. I mean, let's say, for those that are plant-based primarily, um, what I would say is even things like baked beans, etc., can produce flatulence. Now, if you want to just kind of stay raw and try and avoid this, I would say go for more things like cucumbers, celery, carrots, peppers, and squashes. These tend not to produce as much flatulence. So it's one of those, you got to kind of balance it a little bit, see what works for your body, and then kind of go from there.
Right. Dr. Pawan, there's a question for type 1 diabetes. How can we help those who have type 1 diabetes? Can we unmute you? Dr. Pawan, yeah.
Type 1 diabetes. Okay. So first of all, it has to be made clear that type 1 diabetic has to be on the insulin. Only during the very initial phases, when you just notice yourself that I have type 1 diabetes, and you come to your plant-based diabetologist in your very early phases, when you are in the honeymoon phase and your insulin requirements are really low. If you adopt whole food plant-based diet, especially stopping all the dairy and doing maintaining your vitamin B12 and the vitamin D levels really good, and checking your C-peptide levels regularly, checking your GAD65 levels regularly. In my OPD, more than 50 cases I have arrested. I have arrested means they are without insulin. They come to my OPD, they are in a regular follow-up, they are on a whole food plant-based diet, and they are doing really well. Their HbA1c levels are well maintained since past 2 to 3 years. But it is only during those early phases of the diabetes. Once you are late, like mine, so you have 2 to 3 years or 4 years, you keep taking your insulin. But if you switch to whole food plant-based diet, I can guarantee one thing: if your vitamin D level is really good, your stress level is low, you are doing a good exercise, your vitamin B12 is maintained, your insulin requirement will dramatically go down. If you are taking 50 units per day, it will come within 3 months to 25-20 units in one day. This much we are able to do, and more research is going on. I am keeping a follow-up of more than 300 to 400 patients, and checking their C-peptide levels, means following up. Maybe in next 3 to 4 years, some data may come. But yes, whole food plant-based diet is a real help for type 1 diabetic patients.
Thank you very much for that answer. Dr. Arun, there seemed to be some confusion about vitamin D. Um, of course, we know sunlight is the source of vitamin D. Someone is asking, is the sesame seeds good source of vitamin D? So obviously, it's only source of calcium. How do we connect this and tell them that you only get calcium from sesame seeds, but for vitamin D, you will need sunshine?
Plan. Okay. So you do have, I mean, you do have vitamin D in some food sources, but do remember that sunlight. I think Dr. Pavan also kind of touched upon this earlier. It, while certain foods like sesame seeds have a very high quotient of like the vitamin D2 quotient, nutmeg has it too, etc. But for the most part, you really want to make sure you get enough sunlight. Yes, I believe, if memory serves right, I think nutmeg and vitamin D2 levels along in our, I'm sorry, nutmeg and sesame seeds have high levels of vitamin D2. But the vast majority is still what we produce endogenously by exposure to sunlight. So I would say yes, these are good, but it's not a surrogate for making sure you get enough exposure. Of course, darker skin, there's always we tend to form skin cancer, etc., less when exposed to the sun compared to the Caucasian population. So you know we shouldn't worry so much. I mean, it's never a bad idea to apply sunscreen if you're going to be out all the time, but definitely make sure you get enough exposure. I would have to agree with Dr. Shah there completely.
And there's just one last question. Says that can we strengthen bones without supplements on plant-based diet, and how much time does it take?
I think we have kind of answered this question. Like, the only thing that I would say is that, I mean, I think Dr. Pavan and has kind of stressed multiple times, and so have I. Make sure your calcium, vitamin D levels are all good. More importantly, and I mean, well, I shouldn't say more important, but equally importantly, I think one of the things that we don't do a good job of in this country really is, make sure you do weight bearing exercises. You definitely, like, they go hand in hand. And there is no, one of the crazy things that I keep hearing about all the time is like, okay, I'm doing this, so am I never going to get this? In medicine and in most health things, when someone says never, the answer is almost always wrong. So make sure you optimize your chances. So not only, diet is critically important, and diet is probably almost, I would say, 80% overall important when it comes to overall health. But when you want, your bones and muscle strength, etc., definitely have weight bearing exercises, do strength training exercises, etc. These are not emphasized, unfortunately for us, whether in childhood or much later. There is a lot of interest in fitness, but we don't know what exactly to do. Yoga is great, but make sure you have importance to diet, but equally important, I think, is to emphasize on good weight bearing and strength training. um, Yoga, if that works for you guys, is great. So these should be more than adequate to give you good strong bones.
Wonderful. Yes, yes, go ahead.
One thing just I want to emphasize is the question. I think the person who has asked the question is maybe they are asking uh, about the bone status in the postmenopausal woman. So just remember one thing: prevention of osteoporosis is with soya. They have done research and compared head-to-head raloxifene, which is SERM, selective estrogen reuptake modulator, with soybean. If you are soya intake after 45, after menopause, is really good. Uh, Osteoporosis is most of the times preventable, and in terms, sometimes they have shown that it is also therapeutic also. So most of the times when I do my DEXA scans and I recommend many women about soya, and they increase their soybean intake, yes, their T scores and the Z scores are improving. So soybean is the answer for those ladies who want to improve the bone status. And many studies on the internet are there that soybean is outpasting the raloxifene, bisphosphonates, and the this parathyroid hormone or calcitonin hormone.
And I would have to second Dr. Pawan there. Like it's there's good data, and also this is especially true in Asian women. So in fact, these have been they've been good studies published in PubMed, etc. So I think for our parts of the world, it's even more important. But again, remember, it's one part of an entire spectrum. Make sure you get whole and balanced meals.
So include some tofu and do some exercises. That's the answer.
Edamame.
Edamame. Yes, of course. So thank you very much, Dr. Arun and Dr. Pawan, for spending your Sunday evening again half an hour with us. And it was a very, very valuable lesson. And in future, we'll again connect. So on behalf of Export team, I would like to thank you very much for being here today.
Dr. Shah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. See you, Dr. Pawan. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.